So we're looking at 14.2. We're going to be solving right triangles. The homework is on a worksheet for my students anyway, 1 through 23 odd. Okay, solving a right triangle means we're going to find all 6 parts, all 3 angles, all 3 sides. Okay, in order to do that, we're going to need at least 2 sides or 1 side length and 1 acute angle measure. Okay, so in the first question here, we are going to use the Pythagorean theorem to solve for the hypotenuse here, which is right there. And I'm going to switch pins because that one's not writing all that well. Okay, so we see that we have our, what I'm going to call X, Y, and R kind of there. Okay, so we have 5 squared plus 4 squared equals R squared. Okay, to solve for our third side. Okay, 5 squared, 25, plus 16 equals R squared. That gives us 39, 41 equals R squared. Okay, so R equals the square root of 41. Now some of you stellar algebra 2 students are going, Mr. Higgins, should be plus or minus the square root of 41, but we're dealing with actually a side length. So that is just going to be the positive square root of 41. Okay, very good. All right, we're going to move this up. Okay, so to find an angle, we are going to need to use an inverse, sine, cosine, or tangent on our calculator. And I'll get to the calculator here in a second. But if we're asked to find the measurement of angle A up here, okay, the side lengths we have are the opposite and the adjacent. So we go to SOHCAHTOA and we say, okay, the trig ratio that involves opposite and adjacent is our tangent. So the tangent of A equals the opposite over the adjacent. Okay? And what I do from there is I say, okay, if the tangent of angle A equals 5 over 4, then the inverse tan of 5 over 4 equals the measurement of angle A. Okay? And I'm going to show you on the calculator real quick how to do this. Okay, so we'll see if we can get this on here. Okay, so turn my calculator on. First things first, I'm going to make sure I'm in degrees. So I go to mode, and down here it says radians, degrees. Hit degrees. Then I just hit second quit. It'll take me back to this. Now I'm going to go inverse tangent, which is right here. Second tan. I'm going to go 5 divided by 4. Close that. Enter. And I get 51.34. Okay, so that's going to be my angle measurement. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is the angle measure is 51.3. We'll round to the nearest tenth for our angle measures. So 51.3 degrees, and we know the interior angles of a right triangle add up, or any triangle add up to be 180. This is already 90, so what I do is I just take 90 minus 51.3, and I will get my 38.7 here. 38.7, and I have from before the square root of 41 as my answer for the hypotenuse. And there I've just solved the right triangle. I've got all 3 angles and all 3 sides. Let's pause for a second there.
All right, what we're going to do here is we're going to solve a right triangle, and as the big Forrest Higgins said, we're trying to find all 3 sides and all 3 angles. So as I look up here, I have 2 sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the third side, which is the hypotenuse. And this is what we would call a 3, 4, 5 right triangle. Okay, so if I used, I'm going to put H there, and I'm going to put 3 squared plus 4 squared. Okay, so there's the Y, there's the X, right? So I'm going to get 9 plus 16. I'm going to get H squared equals 25. I'm going to take the square root. I'm going to get H equals 5. So here's what I know is this is 5. 3, 4, 5 means that I have integers that end up being integers of the 3 sides. Okay? We call it Pythagorean triples is what we call them. And we'll talk about that more later. Now I'm going to choose to find, Mr. Forrest Higgins found angle A. I'm gonna find angle B. And typically what I do is, it's really important that I know what my reference angle is for me to determine sides, whether they're adjacent or opposite or hypotenuse. So I'm gonna circle B, and I'm gonna say that's the side I'm gonna find, and then I look over here and I say, well, this side is my opposite. This side helps form my angle, and it is my adjacent, okay? Now, one little tidbit here. Here's what I know for sure, is I know that this angle is gonna be smaller, B is gonna be smaller than A, okay? Because the side length opposite B is smaller than the side length opposite of A, all right? And that's kind of important when you get down and you get your angles, you can kind of look at it and say, is it reasonable? So I'm going to take, and I'm going to use tangent. So I'm going to go tangent of B, and that's going to be my opposite, which is 3 over 4. And then I'm going to take the inverse. So I'm going to go tan inverse 3 over 4 is going to equal the measure of angle B. All right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my wonderful calculator, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to hit the second button up here, the blue one, and then I'm going to hit inverse or tangent, which is inverse there, and that comes up, and then I'm going to go 3 divided by 4, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to see that my angle here is 36.86. I'm going to call it 36.9. So I'm going to go up here to the board, and I'm going to write down that my angle here is 36.9 degrees. And then as Mr. Forsigan said, these two combined equal 90. So I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to go 90 minus 36.9. And when I do that, I'm going to come up with my math. I'm going to say it's 53.1 degrees. And so now here is 53.1 degrees. And then I'm going to say, is this reasonable? And I look and I say, well, yeah, 53 is opposite the bigger side, and that is larger than the measure of angle B, which is 36, which is opposite the smaller side. And I have now solved the right triangle. I know all 3 sides, 3, 4, 5, Pythagorean triple, and the 3 angles here.
We've got our right triangle. We're given a side and an angle measure. Okay, now we need to solve for our other angle and our other 2 sides. First thing I like to do is solve for my third angle. Once I have 2 angles, I should have 3 angles. That's 26, so this is going to be 64 degrees, right? Because those 2 are going to add to be 90 degrees. The 2 acute angles add to be 90. So I'm getting there. I've got all 3 angles. Now I need to get some sides, okay? I'm going to go ahead and, because I've been working with tangent a couple times, I'm going to go ahead and solve for the hypotenuse here, given what we have, okay? So what trig ratio involves opposite and hypotenuse? Again, we're going to go off of angle B here, okay? So off of angle B, which is 26 degrees, we're looking for opposite and hypotenuse. And if you know what we're looking at the sine of 26 degrees, okay, equals opposite over hypotenuse, okay? And now we're going to use our algebra skills to solve for h here, okay? Take a look. If it's in the denominator, multiply it to get it out. So we're going to go times h times h. I'm going to cancel, cancel. Now I have h times the sine of 26 equals 2, okay? The sine of 26, that's a number. We can handle it just like a number. So we have h times sine of 26 equals 2. We're going to divide both sides by the sine of 26. And we have h equals, and I'm going to show you my calculator right here. So, 2 divided by the sine, I'm going to put it in parentheses, sine of 26, double close, enter. And I get 4.56. And I'm going to keep 2 decimal spots on my side lengths. So 4.56, okay? And that's my hypotenuse here. 4.56, and so far it's a reasonable number. It's bigger than the 2, right? The hypotenuse is going to be the longest side. Now, some of you are going to want to say, okay, now I can do like x squared plus y squared equals r squared and go from there. And you can. But this is a rounded number. If you saw in the calculator, we had decimals all over the place. So what I'm going to do now is use, let's go with tangent. Okay, we have our 26, we have our opposite, and we need adjacent. So I'm going to go with the tangent of 26 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. Let's call that x. Okay, and I'll put that there. Okay. Same process here to solve for x. We're going to multiply x to both sides. Multiply x. Then we have x times the tangent of 26 equals 2. We're going to divide by the tangent of 26 on both sides. And x is going to equal, go to my calculator. Okay. 2 divided by tangent 26. And I get 4.1. Let's go right there. Okay. Again, like Mr. HT was talking about before, you can use what's called the triangle inequality theorem. Okay. Off of the smallest angle is the smallest side, across from it, opposite. Middle angle, middle side length, largest angle, the 90 degrees, largest side length. Always check that. Okay. After you get done solving the right triangle. All right, very good. Hope you're all doing well.